Imagine waking up one morning, and someone you love has simply vanished. No phone calls, no messages, no explanation, just silence. You go to their room, and it's empty. You look for clues, for signs of where they might have gone, but nothing makes sense. That's exactly what happened to Emily Stone, a woman whose sudden disappearance left a trail of questions no one could answer. Was Emily the victim of a tragic accident? Or was she the target of something far more sinister? What started as a simple getaway would soon become a quest to uncover dark secrets, hidden relationships, and a chilling truth. Emily Stone was more than just a graphic designer, she was a passionate adventurer, a lover of the outdoors, and a woman full of life. She had a close group of friends from her college years, and together, they explored hiking trails and campgrounds across the country. Portland, Oregon, was her home, but nature was her refuge. Her Instagram feed was filled with stunning photos of mountains, lakes, and forests, each one a testament to her love for the natural world. When Emily invited her friends to join her on a weekend hiking trip to Northern California, it was no surprise to anyone. She had been planning this for months. The destination was perfect, remote, scenic, and peaceful. The group had planned a casual hike around a lake surrounded by forests, with no expectations other than relaxation and fun. The group arrived early on a Friday afternoon and set up their campsite near a serene, calm lake. The friends spent the afternoon hiking nearby trails, taking in the fresh air, and catching up. As the evening approached, they gathered around the campfire, their laughter echoing through the forest. Emily, however, seemed quieter than usual. She wasn't as engaged in the conversations as her friends had expected, but they chalked it up to her being tired from the hike. Later that night, Emily excused herself early to go to her tent, mentioning she was feeling a little under the weather. As the others sat around the fire, they noticed how subdued she seemed, but no one thought much of it. Emily was always the reflective type. The next morning, when Emily didn't emerge from her tent by 9 a.m., her friends assumed she was still sleeping. But as the hours passed and there was still no sign of her, they began to worry. The search for Emily began quickly, but the forest seemed eerily quiet. Emily's tent remained standing. Her sleeping bag was perfectly laid out, and her backpack was untouched, but there were no signs of her anywhere. No footprints. No signs of struggle. It was as if Emily had just vanished into the forest. Her friends immediately split up to search the area, calling her name, checking the trail, and walking along the nearby lake. But nothing. After hours of searching, they realized this wasn't just an innocent disappearance. It was something far more alarming. The group contacted the local authorities, and search teams were deployed to the area. Helicopters, drones, and K-9 units were all sent to help, but still, no trace of Emily. As night fell and the search failed to turn up anything, the authorities began to shift their focus. Had Emily gotten lost, or was there something darker behind her disappearance? As the days went by, the mystery deepened. Emily's friends were questioned, and the investigation uncovered odd details that no one had noticed before. For instance, Sarah, Emily's best friend, admitted that Emily had been acting strangely just before the trip. She had seemed nervous, and on the morning of the disappearance, Emily had mentioned receiving a strange message on her phone. But Emily didn't share the details of that message with anyone. The police questioned the group extensively. Mark, who was closest to Emily, had been the last person to see her the night before she disappeared. According to Mark, they had talked for a while around the campfire, and Emily had seemed distracted. He didn't think much of it, but now, in the wake of her disappearance, every detail seemed important. David, another close friend, revealed that Emily had been quieter than usual the night before her disappearance, but he assumed she was just tired from the hike. He mentioned that they had talked about life, and Emily had seemed somewhat contemplative, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. As the days went by, the mystery deepened. The friends' alibis were checked, and the local sheriff's department began questioning everyone who was part of the trip. The detectives started by talking to Sarah, Emily's best friend, who was visibly distraught. She mentioned that Emily had seemed off for days before the trip, but she didn't think much of it. David, another close friend, revealed that Emily had been quieter than usual the night before her disappearance, but he assumed she was just tired from the hike. He mentioned that they had talked about life, and Emily had seemed somewhat contemplative, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Mark, another friend in the group, had been the last person to see Emily before she went to her tent. He had told the investigators that she seemed distant, but he thought it was because of the heavy rain earlier in the evening. The investigators, however, weren't convinced. Something wasn't adding up. As investigators delved into Emily's phone records, they discovered something disturbing. Emily had received a call from a blocked number the night before her disappearance, just hours before going to bed. The call lasted for only a few seconds, but it was enough to raise suspicions. Who called her, and why hadn't Emily mentioned it to her friends? Further investigation into the phone records revealed that Emily had sent and received several messages to an unknown number in the days leading up to the trip. The number was traced back to a payphone located near a trailhead several miles from the campsite, a place Emily had never mentioned before. The detectives were left with more questions than answers. Why had Emily been in contact with this number? Was she planning to meet someone in the woods? Was someone following her? Or was this just another strange coincidence? As the investigation continued, the friends came under increasing scrutiny. Each friend was interviewed multiple times, and their stories were examined for any contradictions. There were, however, some strange behaviors that raised suspicion. Sarah, Emily's best friend, appeared visibly shaken during her interviews, and when questioned about the cryptic messages, she seemed to know more than she had initially admitted. She mentioned in passing that Emily had mentioned someone named Chris she'd met while traveling abroad, but she had never spoken about him again after that. This name, Chris, became a point of interest for the detectives, especially when they learned that there had been no record of Emily's trip abroad. Could Sarah have known more about this mysterious person than she was letting on? Was there a hidden relationship between Emily and this Chris? The case took a dramatic turn when the police uncovered a series of online posts and social media pictures. Emily had posted a picture a week before her trip of herself hiking through the forest, standing next to a man. The man in the photo was someone no one recognized. He was tall, dark-haired, with a distinct scar along his left jawline. No one in Emily's group had seen this man before. The police worked quickly to identify him and discovered that his name was Chris Jones. He was a recent acquaintance of Emily's, someone she had met at a hiking event the year before. But the more they dug into Chris's background, the more unsettling it became. He had a history of harassment, and there were reports of him following women at various outdoor events across the country. Was Chris involved in Emily's disappearance? The investigation took another twist when Sarah admitted that Emily had expressed discomfort with Chris's advances in the weeks leading up to the trip. She had started to distance herself from him, but Chris didn't seem to understand the message. Could this have led to something darker? Was Emily trying to avoid him, and did that lead to her tragic fate? As the investigation continued, the pressure mounted on Chris. He denied having any involvement in Emily's disappearance, but his conflicting statements and the evidence against him raised suspicions. The police began digging into his background, and what they found shocked them. Chris had a history of harassment, and there were multiple reports of him stalking women he had met through hiking events. But despite his troubling past, the police had no concrete evidence that he had anything to do with Emily's disappearance. Still, they couldn't ignore the fact that he had been near the campsite the night she vanished. The investigation took another twist when Sarah admitted that Emily had expressed discomfort with Chris's advances in the weeks leading up to the trip. She had started to distance herself from him, but Chris didn't seem to understand the message. Could this have led to something darker? Was Emily trying to avoid him, and did that lead to her tragic fate? Just when it seemed like the investigation might unravel, another twist turned the case upside down. Chris was found to have lied about his whereabouts the night Emily disappeared. Surveillance footage from a local gas station showed Chris leaving the area, heading directly toward the trailhead. The timeline didn't match. Could it be that Chris had been in the area, waiting for Emily to return to the campsite? Or had he been following her from the very beginning? Chris Thompson's confession was only the beginning of the unraveling mystery. Under intense pressure, he admitted to stalking Emily and said he had planned to confront her about their past interactions. However, his version of events didn't add up. He claimed he had simply been looking for closure, but the evidence suggested otherwise. Police discovered that Chris had been making frequent trips to the area in the weeks before Emily's disappearance, each one unaccounted for. The final piece of the puzzle came when investigators found Chris's hidden stash of personal journals. The journals were filled with obsessive thoughts, including detailed descriptions of his encounters with Emily. But there was one entry that stood out, an entry dated just a few days before Emily's trip. The entry read, "She'll never get away from me. I'm going to find a way to make her realize we're meant to be together." This chilling message pointed to a disturbing obsession. But could Chris have been the one responsible for her disappearance, or was there someone else involved? As investigators closed in on Chris, they uncovered more evidence, footage from a security camera that showed him at a gas station near the trailhead on the night Emily disappeared. His truck was parked nearby, and the timestamps aligned with the timeline of her disappearance. The detectives questioned Chris once again. This time, his demeanor was different, nervous, shaken, as if he was afraid of what he might reveal. The police pushed harder, showing him the footage and confronting him with his obsession. Chris finally cracked under pressure and admitted something that would send shockwaves through the investigation. "I didn't want her to leave me," Chris confessed. "I thought if I could just talk to her, make her see how much I cared for her, she'd understand. But when she refused to listen, I don't know what happened. I just lost control." As investigators pieced together Chris's confession, they began to understand the depths of his obsession with Emily. It became clear that his feelings for her were not just unrequited, they were dangerous. But even as the police closed in on Chris, the investigation revealed a disturbing truth. Emily's friends, those closest to her, had never fully understood the extent of Chris's infatuation. And the secrets that Emily had been keeping from them only added to the mystery. Sarah, Emily's best friend, had known about Chris's advances but never shared the full details with anyone. In hindsight, she admitted she had warned Emily about him, but had brushed it off as nothing serious. But now, Sarah was questioning whether she could have done more to protect Emily. Could Sarah have stopped the events that led to her disappearance? David, another of Emily's closest friends, felt a deep sense of guilt. He had known about Chris, but he hadn't taken Emily's concerns seriously. Now, as the investigation unfolded, he was haunted by the thought that he could have prevented the tragedy. Mark, the last person to see Emily the night before her disappearance, was struggling with his own guilt. He had been with Emily around a campfire, and though she had seemed distant, he never thought anything was wrong. Could he have done something to intervene? Could he have noticed something that would have saved her? As the investigation continued, new information came to light. Emily's friends began to realize the full extent of the danger they had been in. While Chris had been obsessively fixated on Emily, he had been hiding his behavior from everyone around him. His attempts to mask his obsession were calculated and deliberate. But Emily had known something wasn't right. Her friends began to question how much they truly knew about her life, and whether they had overlooked warning signs of a much larger threat. The case took a more personal turn as Emily's family came into focus. Her mother, Caroline Stone, was devastated by the loss of her daughter. She had always been close to Emily, and the sudden disappearance shook her to her core. Caroline started to feel guilty, questioning whether she could have done more to prevent her daughter's fate. Caroline, in a private interview with the detectives, revealed something disturbing. A month before the trip, Emily had confided in her mother about a man who had been creeping her out. At the time, Emily had been vague about the details but assured her mother that it wasn't serious. But looking back, Caroline wondered if she had missed something crucial. The investigation had revealed a shocking truth about Chris Thompson. He had been actively planning to disrupt Emily's life for weeks before the trip. He had sent her text messages, written her emails, and even showed up uninvited at several of the hiking events she had attended. But one of the most shocking revelations came from Emily's own journal. The journal, found in her tent, contained entries that painted a very different picture of Emily's relationship with Chris. Though she had tried to distance herself from him, she had kept a record of the strange encounters. Emily had written that she was afraid of what Chris might do if she didn't confront him directly. "I don't know what he'll do if I tell him I don't want to see him anymore," Emily had written. "He's not listening to me. I'm scared, but I don't know who else to turn to." This revelation gave the investigation a new focus. It was clear that Chris was not only obsessed but had been controlling Emily's life in a way no one had fully understood until now. His influence over her was more toxic than anyone had imagined. The investigation concluded with Chris Thompson being arrested for his role in Emily's disappearance. But there were still questions that remained unanswered. Was Chris the sole person responsible for her death? Or had he been influenced by someone else, someone who had been lurking in the shadows? The story of Emily Stone's disappearance is just one of many chilling mysteries we'll continue to explore in our next episode. Join us as we dive into the dark secrets of another case, one that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about justice and truth. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on the latest twists and turns in our investigations.